Well, hello there, and welcome to Mental Health Monday Recovery 8. And today, as I said last time, I'm going to be talking about dissociation and detachment. Now, dissociation is a state where your nervous system reaches overload and you sort of, for want of a better word, tap out. It's kind of like I was describing last time, those empty days. Well, it's kind of like an empty day state, but it's due to overstimulation, and anyone can experience it. You can, if you've been driving for a long time, you can experience it where you've just been driving for 10 minutes and haven't even noticed, your surroundings or anything else. You've just been driving and there's been nothing else going on in your head. That's a kind of dissociation. But for some of us, it's a more severe problem. Now, I have been dissociating and detaching since my childhood, a long time ago. I used to call it disappearing into a wall. There was no room, there was no me, there was no sound, there was no nothing. There was only the wall. That's what I used to do to cope. Or disappear into a film, or disappear into a book. Those are similar things. When I am reading, I am not there. I am in the book. There's nothing of me. There's only the book. There's only the story. I think partially why I've become a writer is because of that attachment that I have to losing myself in words. I have a similar attachment to movies, I go through periods where I binge watch stuff just to not be in the real world, and it's the same thing with books, and it's the same thing with the sort of world inside my head. I can disappear into that and I'm not thinking about the real world. That's a different type of detachment, and it's difficult for people in the world to get my attention in that time, and I get upset and cross when I'm pulled out of it because I'm in there for a reason. I'm escaping here. Dissociation for me is completely different. So detachment for me is reading and films. I detach myself from the real world and place myself into a pretend world, a make-believe world, to help myself feel better. Dissociation, the disappearing into a wall thing, nowadays I don't do it on purpose. I used to do it on purpose when I was a child. Nowadays I don't want to disappear, but sometimes I do. I just disappear, and all that I can sense of me is my eyeballs. I'm just a pair of eyeballs walking around the world, and there's nothing else. I know on a certain level that the eyeballs are me, but that's the whole extent of it. I think that dissociation, when you use it enough as a defense mechanism, because it is essentially a nervous system defense mechanism to remove you from overstimulating circumstances, like there's too much going on to cope with, so you dissociate and it's gone. It's gone. There's nothing else to deal with. If you use it too much, it can be like a flip state in your head. So I'm stressed a lot. I have a lot going on and I find it all very stressful. And whilst I don't dissociate on purpose, because dissociation is a natural flip state for me when I'm feeling stressed, that's what happens when I am stressed but unaware of how stressed I am. I dissociate. So it's become a subconscious self-defense mechanism that I don't intend to use, but instead uses me in order to keep me on a level, I suppose. But it can be very distressing. Someone's chosen to do their head at the exact same time that I'm doing this. So I've closed the window, so hopefully the sound is not too terrible, and I apologise. How do I deal with dissociation and detachment? Well, detachment is something that I use actively to cope with when I'm feeling bad. Most of the time it's okay. Most of the time I can handle it. Most of the time it's not overwhelming to my life. Other times I can waste a lot of days in a row detaching from stressful situations. Like recently I discovered a book series that I liked, and I basically binge bought and binge read 12 books in about 3.5 days, which is not good. It's not healthy. And fortunately, by the end of it, I got frustrated with the whole process. That normally wouldn't happen. Normally I would be wanting to find more books and to hide more, because my situation is quite interesting and stressful at the moment. But I didn't feel that. By the end of it, instead, I got annoyed and I wanted to be back into my normal routine of doing stuff and being, here in the now. I think that's to do with recovery, definitely, and it's better than wanting to find more ways to lose myself in my detachments. So I'm much happier with that response, even though I'm still quite annoyed at the days that I lost, even though the books were really good and I really enjoyed them. They were awesome. But dissociation is a different thing, because I don't choose to do it, because it's a subconscious response. I'm not always aware that it's happening until it's been happening for a while, if you know what I mean. Unlike when I was a child, when I would purposefully stare into a wall and just actively push everything I was into the wall until everything was gone, now I will slowly begin to realise, wait, hold up, there's only eyeballs here. Now, how can you realise that when everything is gone? Because there's still some rudimentary self in there. Of course there is, because we are complex beings, just like every other being that lives and breathes. And you do notice that you're dissociated when you're in a dissociative state. But it's not always immediate. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time before you realise, hold on, I'm not fully here. And at that point, sometimes you can begin to claw back a little bit more association and reconnect with yourself and with the world. So I would try. Once you realise you're in a dissociative state, unless you know that the reason why you're in a dissociative state is because things are just too hefty for you at the moment, in which case, if that's your coping mechanism, I'm not going to say don't do it. It's because it's a natural response of the nervous system. If you're doing it, then your body is doing it on your behalf because you are stressed. So it's not essentially something that you should be actively attempting to stop. If your body is needing you to be out of a situation because it's overstressing you, then there is a reason for that. Stress is very damaging to the body, and dissociating from what's causing you stress, I would say, alleviates some of that damage. For me, it certainly does, because when I dissociate, I'm not experiencing that stress, and therefore it is not able to affect me in the same way. I don't know whether that could be confirmed by doctors. It probably wouldn't be, but yeah, I would not advise anyone who is experiencing dissociation, unless it's causing you too much interference. I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm dissociated, I can still do stuff. It's just a pair of eyeballs doing it. So how I deal with it is, if the situation allows, I let it pan out, and if not, if it's holding me back from being, what I need to be, then I fight back against it and I try and reconnect myself enough to do what I need to do. Now on to detachment from my emotions. It's a weird thing, because at the moment I'm reattaching slowly, because I'm reattaching to not very well used emotions. I have forgotten how to respond properly to specific things, if that makes any sense. I don't know how I feel about a lot of stuff. As people ask you, how do you feel? And you can come up with like a vague overarching theme of your current emotional weather system. I am sad. I am happy. I am upset about something. I am pissed off. I can do overarching, large-scale, general feels, but connecting with specific emotions about specific things is generally a lot harder, because I've not had that connection to my emotions. We have not been conversing on a regular basis for a very, very long time. So when I'm feeling something specific about something, I'm often pretty uncertain what it is that I'm feeling, and it frustrates me. It's very frustrating, and having correct emotional responses to things that happen as well can be very difficult. There's no filter for your emotions. They've been ill-used and ill-communicated with for so long that you just don't know how to have an interaction with them. I can't give any advice on how to sort out being detached from your emotions. I'm still in the middle of that. I don't really have any answers. I'm still figuring out what my emotional responses are and where I am in feeling about certain things about myself and other people and stuff that happened. And especially when it comes to stuff that happened, to a certain extent you want to leave it all, but there's stuff that you have to deal with before you can move on, and trying to figure out your emotional responses to them when you detach from your emotional responses at the time. Oh, it's super hard because everything is just rage. Everything is rage. But it wasn't all rage at the time. At the time, there was a far more complex melting pot of emotional responses going on, and you need to connect with them in order to unravel what happened within you to cause the changes that are causing you trouble now. It's hard. I think that covers what I wanted to say about dissociation and attachment. There can be, if you are in a stressful situation, a healthy aspect to it. It is, after all, the body's defense mechanism against stress. So in that sense, it is something that you maybe can work with to help you get through stressful situations. And in another sense, it can impair your life, and you then need to find methods to fight against it and make it work for you rather than against you. Next time on Mental Health Monday, I'm going to be talking about excess emotions. Over emotional responses to stuff. Feeling like everybody else is dialed up to 5 like normal human range, and you're like dialed up to 11 like Motorhead emotional range because you just can't get a handle on your emotional state. That's what I'm going to be talking about in 2 weeks' time, and how I deal with it or don't. So I hope today was helpful, and I hope to see you next time when I talk about excess emotions. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.